Well, thank you for that. Now, on to politics. The debate yesterday, the word I keep hearing over and over again is overwhelmed, overwhelmed. When they talk about Fred Thompson, that he was overwhelmed, shadowed by Mitt Romney and Giuliani. But you were there. What did it feel like being in the room?
Well, I wasn't in the room. I never.
You weren't in the room.
I never watch a debate in the auditorium. I never watch a televised debate in the auditorium. And the reason I don't watch a televised debate in the auditorium itself
probably makes sense
is that the politically significant thing is not how it looks in person, but how it looks on television.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to be right near the room in case, somewhat ghoulishly somebody topples over and I gotta run in there.
Well, there's so many of them and so little room on the stage that's
sort of
possible.
If one toppled, they would all topple like a set of bowling pins. But I want to be near the room, but I want to watch it on television, and I like to watch it on television in the big room where all the reporters are, hunched over their laptops, as indeed was I. Because another politically significant thing, besides how it looks on television and how I sense that it looks on TV, because that's how most people are going to see it, is I want to get the body language of the press corps, who yesterday were all poised to pounce on Fred Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
They were all sort of up in the trees there as poor old Fred Thompson loped through the forest.
But he did set it up that way.
Waiting to jump, and he started slow. If you watch the debate, you know that his early answers had a little hitch in the get along there. But then he gathered some confidence, and he was really learning on the fly because he hadn't been doing these. It was sort of like a guy who, for one reason or another, missed the first month of class.
Yeah, no. And when's the teacher to think he's read in?
And to his horror, when he comes in that first day, the teacher's handing out blue books, for an essay assignment. And you could tell that Fred, in the first few questions, I only have enough to write one paragraph here. How am I going to fill up the rest of the blue book? But when he got to talking about foreign policy and got to be Arthur Branch, the character he plays on Law and Order, I think he was more comfortable. What the hell's going on here?
Yeah, but having watched his performance on TV yesterday, and I'm sure you've been around him on other times, do you think he has the get up and go to get up and go and endure the...
Hey, he got up and went.
I mean, do you see him as fulfilling all that has been endowed on him in the early parts of his candidacy? Do you see him living up to that?
Well, I wouldn't dismiss him out of hand, because I know him and I've known him for a long time. And before I knew him, I covered him, and before I covered him, I read about him. This guy goes back a long way. I don't think he scares easily. I think he knows more than his country boy manner leads you to believe. I've spent time in Lawrenceburg, which is where he's from in Tennessee, doing a profile of him a number of years ago.
So he really does like fried green tomatoes.
Yeah, I'm sure he does like fried green tomatoes, and even though the pickup truck in the '94 campaign was a gimmick, he's a guy who grew up around pickup trucks. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I think Lawrenceburg is it's either one of the stock car racing capitals or used car capitals of the Mid-South, I don't remember which. So he's the real deal in terms of being a guy from a small town who made it on his own and came to the big city and has survived here for 35 years, going back to the days of Richard Nixon, who I'm looking at in that picture, but by David Kennerly in the back.
Yes,
so,
all of them.
And I think frantic energy can be overrated as a indispensable commodity. I think the fact that, and I have some of the recent polls here, let's see. This is the latest poll in South Carolina among likely Republican voters, and I think South Carolina is a very good measure of the sort of molten core of the Republican Party of today. you've got 5 candidates in double figures. Here's how it reads. Thompson 21%, Rudy 16%, no, excuse me, Romney 16%, McCain 16%, Giuliani 16%, and Huckabee 11%. So it's wide open, and it depends what the American people really want. Well, first it depends what Republican voters really want. I think Fred Thompson is clearly running as the vice president that he wasn't, but is standing in for. In other words, he is standing in for the role that Dick Cheney would play as the defender of the faith, meaning the Bush presidency. And while he doesn't say it in so many words, he's the one who says the economy is darn good, and it's the biggest untold story, and he's the one who says we have to fight the Islamofascists. And so he is the Bush guy. So to the extent there are enough Republican voters
is that a smart tactic?
Well, it was the tactic available to him. And if you look at the people around him, he's got Mary Madeline, and he's got Elizabeth Cheney, and he's got a whole big bunch of the Bush crew that didn't go with McCain. See, well, the way this started out is, in the Republican Party normally, it's a royalist party where one succeeds the other, sort of like second vice chair of the chamber becomes first vice chair, and so on. It's not that way now, and in part because Cheney didn't run. So that's what Fred Thompson
did. You ever think Cheney might run?
No, nobody ever thought he would.
Nobody ever thought that.
And that's one of the reasons why Bush has been as free to do what he wants as he has, because he doesn't have to worry about ruining the political career of his vice president.
But isn't he arguably ruining the political career of the people in his party who are running to replace him?
George Bush?
Yeah.
Yes, no question. No question. I mean, the war is, it would have probably been good for the Republican Party had Bush's vice president be somebody who wanted to run for president. It would have acted as a governor and a brake and a guide on Bush's policy. But you didn't have anybody running into the Oval Office saying, my God, Mr. President, you're going to, in effect, you're going to ruin my chances. Just the opposite. You had Dick Cheney, freed from the normal bounds of politics, saying, go for it, Mr. President. And that's still the situation we're in if you read the papers about Iran. That's going on right this minute.